Welcome back, Rankers, and welcome to 2010. Hope you all had a great Chrissy and a happy and safe new year. We did. Worked through most of it, but I didn't do a show last week, so this is the first one for 2010. You may remember in December we did a story on Fairfax, which is a large Australian publisher, and the company that they're in a JV with, OMG, and how there was about 3 million pages out there that potentially had blackhat SEO on them. And if you go and Google Fairfax blackhat, you'll see, you can find the story because it's every result on the front page of Google except for one of them. But we've got the 10 results there. I'll just go to that particular blog article. Basically, one of the guys here, Joel, found a technique that these Fairfax OMG sites that we're using, that they were showing one thing to the search engine in a H1 tag, saying that this is important, but they weren't actually displaying that text to the user. Now, for most search engines, that is a red flag. That is saying that I'm showing something to you, but I'm not going to show it to the user, which basically says we're trying to trick the search engine. And what the search engine is trying to do is provide the most relevant results, so they're not too happy about that. So usually you would get some sort of penalty. Hasn't happened to OMG. Now, if you want to read all the comments, we've got comments there in that particular blog post from the Director of Corporate Development. There's also someone there who handles SEO from The Age, who's commented saying that the technique that's been employed on the Age is purely for people with screen readers who are visually impaired. Well, I would put a call out to Elise, who is a well-known Melbourne web developer, who knows a lot about screen readers, and I'm sure she could probably have a look at that comment on the blog post and tell us if that is actually the case. But I don't want to get into the theage.com.au. I just wanted to show you wedding.com.au, which was the main site that we found that had this blackhat technique on. And if you have a look at that particular blog post, Dale McCarthy here, who is the Director of Corporate Development, has said, well, we've fixed that particular technique on wedding.com.au and it's all fixed and shouldn't have happened. Sorry. But what is really interesting is that this is the site that's had the hidden text, the hidden H1 removed from it. When you Googled wedding prior to, with that technique being used, that particular site, wedding.com.au, was #1 for the word wedding. Over the Christmas New Year period, since they've removed that blackhat technique, they've dropped down to number 8. There they are there. So what that tells me is I don't think Google's penalised them or anything like that, because if they had, they wouldn't be on the front page of Google. But what has happened is that Google has reassessed the page for the relevancy of the word wedding, and it's decided it's not #1 anymore because it doesn't have the word wedding in the H1 at the top of the page, which it previously did. So that tells you a lot about the value that Google puts on a H1, especially if it's at the top of the page. Now, people also often ask me a lot about, should I get my keywords in my domain name? And my comment always is, look, if you're setting up a new site, why not? Don't go and change your existing site. But if you're setting up a new site, it doesn't hurt to get some keywords in it. What this shows here is, the weight of the word wedding in the domain name, and only wedding in the domain name, hasn't helped them maintain the #1 position for the word wedding. Okay, if Fairfax OMG went back and simply put up here in a H1 the word wedding, you would probably see that result go back up, probably top 5, maybe top 3, if Google isn't penalising them. So I just wanted to show you that, to show you the value of getting your keywords in a H1 early in the page, and put to bed some of the myths about, you're always going to be #1 if you just have the keyword in domain name. Not the case. Depends on the competition. And this is a highly competitive space, as you can imagine, for the keywords, I mean. In another example of H1s, this particular site, Stephen-Conroy.com, It was originally stephenconroy.com.au, and it was a satirical site set up in protest of Australia's new Chinese-like internet filter that our government's going to be employing. And this site was nowhere to be found. But now, if you go and Google the phrase Stephen Conroy, it's a brand new site. We'll just wait for that. There we go. So if we Google the phrase Stephen Conroy, and we'll just do pages from Australia, because no one else really cares about him. What a terrible thing to say. You'll see that it's number 6 for the phrase Stephen Conroy, just below the Sydney Morning Herald and the Minister's own site. Both of those are the Minister's site. Now, the main reason that site has gone straight into the top 10 for the phrase Stephen Conroy, you can imagine there's a lot of chatter on the internet at the moment about that phrase, is that it's got the phrase Stephen Conroy actually in the URL, and it's got a bucket load of backlinks now from people linking to it, and these are organic links. So the fundamentals, it's got 3,000 links now. That's happened in a matter of weeks. It's got those backlinks. Now, a lot of people saying, is SEO dead? Well, this is, to me, is a really easy example of why SEO is not dead. Now, the story behind this particular site is they actually originally registered stephenconroy.com.au, but the AUDA took that domain name back off them once they saw that it was a site satirising Stephen Conroy. I won't get into the details about how that contravened their own regulations, but you can go and read about it at stephen-conroy.com. Anyway, they got the domain name back, stephenconroy.com.au, and they're redirecting it to Stephen-Conroy. Now, the redirect is not giving them a lot of love. They're making a statement here saying the site was censored and was taken down and everything else. But if they wanted to get some real SEO value out of that, they would do a 301 redirect. If we have a look at this tool from SEOconsultants.com, it's a header checker tool. And if we put in there, say, stephenconroy.com.au, and what I'm doing here is I'm checking to see what's happening with Stephen Conroy, and it's timed out there, so let me just do that again. I want to see how it's timed out again, and that's because they're doing what's called a meta refresh rather than a 301 redirect. If they did a 301 redirect, it would tell the rest of the world and all the search engines out there that now the new site for stephenconroy.com.au is stephen-conroy.com.au, and they would inherit all the links out there for that domain name, of which I would think there's probably hundreds who haven't realised they need to change the backlinks to that site. The other thing that this particular site could benefit a lot from, I mean, they're already in the top 10 for the phrase Stephen Conroy, but if they simply put a H1 up here with Stephen Conroy in it, as we've seen from winning.com.au, you would find they'd probably jump another 2 or 3 spots. So hopefully that's helpful for a lot of you. And this year, I think you're going to have to be a lot more aware on the performance of your hosting company and the performance of your servers. And that's why it's so imperative to keep an eye on what's going on in Google Webmaster Tools, and look at the speed check tool in Google Webmaster Tools. We've seen a number of sites that the hosting companies either had an outage over Christmas or the site had an outage over Christmas. And there's a spike in Google Webmaster Tools under the speed test tool, and we've found that that has resulted in a drop in their rankings. It's too early to tell yet what's going on, but Google is still going through some sort of reconfiguration, algorithm adjustment, Google Dance, whatever you want to call it, from the results that we're seeing since they launched the live search tool, which took in the Twitter feed and everything else. We're seeing a lot of junk come through in some of the results that we're working with, and of sites that really shouldn't be there. So we think they're going to disappear in the next probably 10 to 20 days, I hope. But Google still is going through an adjustment, so don't panic if your results are all over the place at the moment. It will settle down. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.